What's up everybody, it's Ree or Rebel Inks Art here again with today's character design challenge. Now the very first thing to point out off the bat is that I finally managed to get my own personal character aesthetic generator up and going. I had tried to make one forever ago, back when I was first considering changing generators, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to get the generator to work. It turns out I just can't read and missed one of the most basic instructions that they give you right off the bat, which is add commas after each of your words when you're making your own personal list. So I finally figured that out because I'm a big old dumb butt, but it's okay because now I've got my own generator that I can add to and change up as I go about this process. So we are going ahead with our first prompt from that today, which is Sugar Fae. So for this I was really excited. I wanted to have a nice, very bubbly, kind of pastel, cutesy fae who still felt a little ominous, but not like super dangerous. Kind of like the Tooth Fairy's like not quite evil twin sister, but just like definitely the chaotic good to Tooth Fairy's lawful good. So I immediately kind of hopped in there. I wanted to give her a bunch of little cutesy like sweets as like a crown or as like, what's it, like, I can't think of words to speak today. It's okay. Little accents all over her costume. I wanted to make sure I definitely pushed this idea of her having a very solid candy theme. This was one of, I don't know, I kind of sat myself down today and I was like, I'm going to focus on the things that I normally kind of ignore in character design challenges. So I'm going to make sure that I push this design enough. I'm going to make sure the coloring is really good. And I'm going to make sure that I draw the hands good. And I think it turned out pretty okay. It was definitely kind of a tiring process. It took a little longer than I wanted it to, but I'm really happy with the end result, so I can't really fault it too much. So just heading in there, I'm messing with those hands a lot. As you can see, I pull up a lot of different references. I took like photos of my own hand, and when that didn't quite work out, I went to Pinterest and I found pictures of hands kind of close to what I wanted things to look like. And I eventually got something that I was pretty happy with. Those hands were a pain though. I'm still not entirely like super happy with the hands, but what I am happy with is the feet. I had this moment where I'm like, I kind of want her to be barefoot, but also I know I'm bad at drawing bare feet, so I don't want to like make too much of a challenge for myself. And so I almost put shoes on her, and then I'm like, no, this is the video of pushing myself. I'm gonna draw her barefoot. And so I spent so much time on these stupid feet and found good references and managed to get feet that I was actually happy with, and I'm still stupid proud of that. It was not something that I managed to succeed in frequently. Getting those wings drawn, and then I decided I wanted to give her kind of like sprinkle faux gloves, like little candy sprinkles where gloves and like shoes normally would be, as just kind of a way of incorporating the candy theme more. And they almost got forgotten in the coloring process, but I did remember to stick them back in there. It took much longer than I wanted it to do that candy. There was a lot of little details in this. I'm like, I don't know if this is really gonna show up or turn out. I should probably just scrap it. And then I committed to it anyways, and I'm really happy with it, so I guess it's a good thing that I stuck to my guns. I wanted her to have a very wistful, kind of like dreamy look. Heading in there with those nice wavy curls before lining our hands. There's not a whole lot to say about the whole line art process. I think one of my favorite parts of this outfit is the top part of her dress. We'll see when we get to the coloring part of this. I do a nice soft like rainbow pastel gradient that I think looks so cute, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Speaking of how things turned out, I think the biggest like, I suppose like Cinderella story in terms of like sports terms, you know, something that I didn't expect to turn out good and then turned out real great. The skirt. I was kind of neutral on the skirt. I didn't think it was going to be like the crowning achievement of this picture, but I didn't think it was going to be a challenge. But it turned out so much better looking than I thought it was going to, and I don't know how or why, but I'm not going to look the gift horse in the mouth, you know? Looking at it now, I see her wings are a little lopsided. That's okay. Maybe she had an accident. And here we are doing those sprinkles, going in with soft pastel rainbow colors, since that's what I tend to associate with like the sprinkles you see on cupcakes and birthday cakes and that kind of thing. Sprinkling a couple on her shoulders too, but completely unintentional might be. And then doing some on her feet and on her arms. It's hard to see on the white background, but when we add in her skin tone, they really pop. It was so tedious doing all of these, because I wanted to make sure I had a good mix of dots and dashes in there, and I wanted it to be fairly inconsistent while still looking semi-uniform. And it was just a whole thing, a whole production. Heading in there with those sloppy colors. I knew I wanted most of it to be very nice and pastel while having some of the candy be like nice and bright. And I wanted to mess a lot with the gradient tool. Heading in there with that top. One thing I need to get better about is I need to stop like starting on red when I'm coloring something a rainbow. The assumption that everybody is always posed to perfectly fit the rainbow is something I probably should mess with a bit more. Doing those little sprinkles and the little candy ornaments. I think the lollipops were something that I didn't put as much detail into them as I should have. I ended up kind of bland just because I didn't really know how to do a better one. Maybe we'll do some candy studies later on. I'm certainly gonna need them for Rocky Road Racers. I think my favorite part of this was the wings. I wanted them to have a very like crystally, very like see-through but still very bright kind of vibe, and the way I did that was I used the gradient tool, selected individual parts of the wing, and then went about, we're not there yet, and then I went about the process of adding in the different pastel rainbow colors we see in the sprinkles. And not only did it turn out really cool, but it was a fun process. Here we go. So I'm starting off grabbing that red and then selecting individual parts of the wing, going in there and filling them in with the different colors. And then what I do is I did this on a separate layer from the original colors, and I erase just around the very edges of it to give it a nice kind of like shimmery feeling. And then adding in those last little purple ones. And going in, getting up close with my eraser, and giving it all a nice kind of funky vibe. And then we're heading in with shading. I decided to go with a deeper color than I normally do for the skin tone, so that I could turn the opacity on a little bit so that the face paint and stuff we're going to be doing shows through the shading. Because I didn't want to have to fight with it. Although I will be honest, when I was doing the shading here, I did absolutely forget about the face paint I had planned. I remembered it just last second, and I'm so happy I did. For the face paint, actually, I went with a very kind of like deer-ish vibe, just because when I think about like fae and fae courts and that kind of thing, I associate like deers and different wood life with it, and so I wanted to give her some kind of homage to that to show that she is still fae, not just a fun little kids' time fairy. And I think the bright colors on her face really help just kind of drive home this Candyland vibe. And then finally, we're shading that skirt. There was a moment there you could kind of see the hesitation where I'm like, I don't need to shade the skirt, do I? It looks fine on its own. And I was like, I might end up regretting it if I don't shade the skirt. And I'm so glad I did decide to do it, because the shading on this turned out so cool, and I'm so happy with it, and it's probably my favorite part of the picture. use that same kind of technique that I did on the wings, just because I'd seen it in a couple speed paints and I thought it might look cool, and it turned out real neat. And then just finishing up the picture as we do, we can see that finished illustration here. I'm really happy that I pushed myself. I know there's still quite a ways to be pushed more and still quite a few more things to learn, but I think she turned out a lot better than our past couple of aesthetic characters have. So I'm super happy with it. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but if you want to check out the generator I made for this, it's inspired obviously by the aesthetic generators we've used in the past. The link to that is in the description. It's what we're going to be using for videos now on, just because it's a bit more customizable, and when things are getting stale I can add in new prompts and the like. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. There was something else I wanted to say, but I can't think of it, so we're just gonna roll with it. Thank you guys. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you eat some great food, and I hope you make some great art. Bye-bye!